Blog Talk Radio.
Hello everyone, this is Lori Smith on Blog Talk Radio. Good morning. It is Thursday, February 25th, 5:30 in the morning, Calgary, Alberta time. Excuse me, bright and early, and I'm just waking up having a coffee. And I'm happy to be here. We're on for 15 minutes and just a quick chat, and we're talking about understanding child maltreatment and juvenile delinquency, foundations for effective responses. It's a part 2. You can find this article www.cwla.org, and this article was written by Janet Wigg, JD, and MSW. And this is an interesting article. I was interested in finding some information regarding the link between juvenile delinquency and child maltreatment. And so I just kind of typed into my browser, those words and brought up a few articles on it. And there's not a whole lot on this subject that's any different than these articles, but you can certainly check it out for yourself. And but it's so important, I think, to look at these issues. And so I'm glad you can be here. This is a one child abuse survivor to another, and it's not a professional show. I don't have any professional certificates or in counseling or therapy. I'm just a person who pays to do this show because I think that people need to talk about the issues surrounding abuse. It's not so much in the public eye, except to find out that people have been murdered, children have been murdered or died due to injuries resulting from abuse. And so I think we just need to change that, and we need to start talking about it in a really proactive way, start finding out what the issues are, taking a look at the issues, and then taking a look at ways that we can actually help prevent and raise awareness and prevention of child abuse. So I'm a student part-time at MRU, and I study child rights and human rights, and it's just so important that we all, if we want to see a change in this world for the children today and the children tomorrow, then we all need to focus our attention on these issues and do whatever we can in whatever capacity that we can. We're all in a different place in our lives, and some people, whether we can help people, or organizations financially, a lot of people just can't do that. But even if we're just a voice for children, a voice for those who cannot stand up for themselves, a voice for people who are suffering in domestic violence situations, and just a voice for the children who are being abused and stuff. Even that makes a big difference, I think. Just people, then society realizes that, we do have to do something. And I just think it's so important that we all stand up. And so, listen at your own discretion to this show. It's entirely up to you whether you want to listen to it or not. You have control of that. And if it's something that might trigger you or just is not a topic that you think you're going to be comfortable with, turn the show off. It's your priority, it's your prerogative, and it's your decision to make. So I always ask people to listen at your own discretion. And also, if you're a young person under the age of 18, you'd be doing yourself and everybody else a favor if you would have someone listen to the show with you, because it's so important. This show is ultimately about children and child abuse, and there's so many really, crazy people out there who get a hold of children online and stuff, and I would hope that you have a parent or a caregiver, someone in your life who cares about what you're listening to and who you're talking to online. And we're going to do some shows on online safety coming up here. So it's so important, and that's why I think young people should have someone listen to this show with them, and that way, they can decide whether or not you should be listening to it, and then they can also be there to sort of help you find some answers to questions that you might have. There's abuse is a scary topic, and I cover all the issues surrounding abuse, especially child abuse. So, we want to be sure that we can get the answers to the questions that we might have. And so if you're a young person, you should really have someone listen with you, and that way they can help you with that sort of thing. And I appreciate everybody tuning in. I appreciate all the support. I have a lot of supporters. I have a lot of people who listen to this show on a regular basis who tell me that they enjoy it. They get a lot of good information on it. They get good, references to other websites and stuff that they might not have found, and I really appreciate that. The websites are out there, and if anybody is interested, they just start typing into your browser what you're interested in looking at, and you can pull up this information yourself and find maybe some more and different and better information, right? So the information's out there, we just have to look for it. And so I'm glad that you can be here. We have about 10 minutes, and Yesterday we were looking at this part 2, Understanding Child Maltreatment and Juvenile Delinquency, Foundations for Effective Responses. And they were saying that, I'll just read right here, really that the front line of delinquency prevention should be the prevention of child abuse and neglect itself. That's where we left off yesterday. And so really in order to, because the relationship and the link between, juvenile delinquency and abuse it's about, as when this article was written, which I'm not sure what date it was 21% higher risk that children who had been abused or neglected would go on to commit violent crimes and be, tomorrow's delinquents, right? And it says, so really the front line of delinquency prevention should be the prevention of child abuse and neglect itself. And really that's the bottom line right there. That's what needs to happen. And it just needs to stop anyway. I mean, we really have to make a stand. For so many years now, child abuse has just been swept under the carpet until it's too late, and then we find articles in the news and the paper about these children who have been killed and murdered at the hands of caregivers or sexual predators or parents, right? Someone in the family, a family member, right? And so we don't want to, I think that's sad that the only time we hear about abuse is like when it's something like that in the paper. It's just sad to see that. Abuse should really be front and center so that we can stop it. And it seems to me that there's too many people wandering around, wasting time on stuff that just doesn't really matter when it comes to child abuse prevention and awareness. And really, what we need to do is find out in your own community, in your own area, who's doing what, and get involved, right? That's what I'm doing. And so, we need to look within our own communities, our own homes, our own hearts, and we need to actually start taking a look at this situation, especially if you have children and you have children living near you and in your area, or you work with children, to make sure that that we all recognize the signs and symptoms of abuse and actually start making these reports, because abuse is just so underreported, and that's the problem. We only hear about a very small percentage of the abuse because most of it's unreported, and then we don't find out until it's too late and the child's been murdered or died of resulting from abuse. So that's the sad part. I think we need to change it, and I think we need to do all we can to change it. It should be front and center, right on the front page of the newspaper every day until we see some really positive change in this issue, and also and then continuing on to maybe be on the second page. And it just needs to be front and center with the society if we're going to ever see any change regarding child abuse issues. And it's so important because whole generations of children are growing up to become adult survivors, and then it's very, very hard on them, and it's hard on society. The society pays the price, and the billions of dollars in taxpayers' money per year to deal with child abuse issues. From the very first people who are actually going into the home to remove the child, all the way through the healthcare system, and then the adult survivor issues. It's billions and billions of dollars are being pumped out to help these people. And the thing is that there's nothing being done, actually not much, to try to prevent it, because really, what do? You just can't be wandering into people's homes and say, "Are you abusing your child?" Because people aren't going to admit to that. And these signs and symptoms aren't always visible, especially at the time. You know what I mean? So this is the problem. It's gonna have to be done another way. And I don't have the answers. That's what I'm looking for. And so I hope that everybody else will start looking for those answers too. Like, how can we change this? How can we make this happen to stop child abuse? We can all say stop child abuse. That's great. But we need to actually find out how to stop child abuse. So, I don't waste any time on other things that just aren't necessary, and I just stick with it because kids are dying. It's way more important to stay focused on the work to stop child abuse than it is to be, messing around and fussing around with other things that just don't matter. We really have to get involved and make a difference because kids are dying, and it's unfortunate. And then so many are not being reported. The abuse is not being reported, so they suffer on and they suffer on, and they might survive the abuse, but then later on their lives are ruined and crippled because of it, right? So it's so important that we do this now. And I'm so happy to raise my voice and get involved. I'll just start reading from the page where we left off. Regardless of the point of intervention, what is needed is a continuous staging of individualized assessments focused on the child's health and behavior and identifying the child's service needs. The triggering of these assessments will be based on identified risks to the child, beginning with the factors that put children at risk of child abuse, neglect, and continuing through the occurrence of abuse and neglect and the onset of delinquency. Good individualized assessment of these children will include multiple domains of a child's functioning to address those factors that continue to put children at risk of future delinquency. And they said here, the categorization includes the following risk factors: individual, family, school, community, neighborhood, and peer-related. So we'll look at individual here. They wrote hyperactivity, early onset of delinquency, discipline problems. And the family, child maltreatment, parental substance abuse, family disruption, and parental criminality. And school, poor academic performance, truancy, and school transitions. Community, neighborhood, poverty, community disorganization, and exposure to violence. And peer-related, delinquent siblings and peers, rejection by peers. So those are all things that actually are risk factors for children who are growing up maltreated and abused, and these are situations that, if they're living in these situations, it's highly, not every child will go on to, commit, or get involved in juvenile delinquency or commit violent acts, and that's a fact. But it does kind of raise the bar, raises the level of the percentage that actually will. And so it's just sad, and so many people, children grow up like that, and it's really, really hard. It's hard on society, and it's hard on them, and that's why we need to get involved where we can. In addition to providing for good individualized assessment of children through the progressive stages of prevention intervention programs, it is useful to identify individual programs that report effective results in reducing child abuse. My voice is terrible this morning. And neglect and delinquency. So in the sections that follow, examples of these programs and assessment practices are described to illustrate what common elements of effective programs should characterize the continuum of prevention and intervention strategies. It is important to note that these programs and practices have been subject to differing levels of evaluation, and some will require additional evaluation to fully test their effectiveness to bring about the desired outcomes for children, youth, and families. And so they go on to talk about prevention of child abuse and neglect, and then there's an article about that, and then there's an article about early intervention and prevention of delinquency, and that's quite a good article there. And then there's intervention in response to child abuse and neglect. And finally, let's see, that's the last part of the article there. No, there might be a little bit more. So we'll look at that tomorrow morning. We only have a couple minutes left, and so we'll look at prevention of child abuse and neglect tomorrow. Now, and there's ways to report child abuse, and if you're not sure, I did read that out there's various sites, numerous sites that actually have the actual proper way to report child abuse. And I'm just going to list one because I'm the Canada Regional Director for Dream Catchers for Abused Children, and I'm happy to stand with them and help them in their mission and just help them to do the work that they do, which is so proactive on awareness, prevention of child abuse, education. So their website, www.dreamcatchersforabusedchildren.com. You can go on there, and they do have all the signs, symptoms of all the different kinds of abuse. They also have how to report abuse, how can I get involved, what to do if a child comes and says to me, discloses that they're being abused. There's so many great articles and information on the website, and it's so important that we know how to do this, because we can actually mess up a case for a child if we don't know how to respond when if a child discloses that they're being abused. It's so important. And so, I just highly recommend anyone to, whatever website you search it out on, it doesn't matter, to get that information, because it is actually on lots of the websites like littlewarriors.ca, and there's more, the Child Welfare Gateway, and there's so many. Like I have cards and lots of info. And if you need any more information, get a hold of me. You can get a hold of me through blogtalkradio.com. Send me a message. And I hope you guys have a great day. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back on tomorrow morning, 5:30, same time. One child abuse survivor to another. And my heart is with you. And thank you so much for everything. Keep the hope alive. Keep walking and working towards a better life for yourself and working towards a better life for these children today and tomorrow. And together, standing together in whatever capacity that we're advocating in, doesn't really matter what we're doing. We're all individuals, so we have different styles and different ways of going about it. But it's the common goal to stop child abuse. That's what's important. And so, I'm so happy to stand with anyone who's raising their voice to say stop child abuse. Thanks a lot. Have a great day, everybody. Take care.